Guys, so I wanted to do kind of an update over the next 3 Sundays on where the bracket stands right now, as we do have 3 weeks before Selection Sunday happens. We're going to go over seeding lines. We had a lot of incidents yesterday, and I am a little bit under the weather right now. I woke up this morning in a cold sweat. We're trying to remedy it, and I'm drinking fluids and stuff like that, but maybe a little bit slower here for these videos. Now, this Brandon Miller situation yesterday, guys, I'm sure you saw, just crazy. I know people were saying they do this, before every game, but just, you got to stop that. You got to have some self-awareness to not do the frisking, after the situation that went on. And really, I think the NCAA is counting down the days to launch some type of investigation into Nate Oates and try and get him removed. The NCAA cannot like what the University of Alabama is doing right now. It's just a terrible look for the sport. And, the whole situation, I don't want to speak on. It's very situational. But Brandon Miller does continue to play, and he did play well yesterday. Alabama ends up winning. How about Fran McCaffrey? This is a great screenshot. Fran McCaffrey staring down a referee. They're down 10 points with 90 seconds left, and Iowa comes back. After this screenshot, Iowa won this game. And that game was crazy high scoring into the 100s. So just a remarkable game there with Michigan State. Both of those teams, I think, pretty good heading into the tournament. Both will safely make it. Let's get a bubble update right now. You've got Pittsburgh on the Final Four byes, so they're safely in the tournament, although the ACC got crushed yesterday with a number of teams losing. That conference is really down right now. You've got Nevada, Memphis, and then West Virginia with that really bad record in conference. They are still making the tournament because the Big 12 is so good. Last four in, so these teams would play in the play-in game. Oklahoma State, USC, Wisconsin, and Mississippi State. The first four teams out, Penn State, they've got a huge game with Rutgers. If they beat Rutgers, I guarantee you they'll probably move to at least be in the last four in. Utah State, North Carolina, Charleston. Man, North Carolina got a big win against Virginia yesterday, but Virginia is falling hard. And then the next four out, you've got Texas Tech, Clemson, Michigan, who got a huge win against Rutgers. We'll see how they look. I think they play today. And then New Mexico as well, who had, I believe, a heartbreaking loss yesterday. That could have been a quality win for them. Taking a look at the actual bracket, you have Alabama listed as the number one overall seed in front of Houston. We'll get to, why that's the case. But Bama right now facing a 16 seed. You have Iowa, Nevada in an 8-9 matchup. Xavier versus Marshall. Marshall having a really good season. Miami. They're saying Miami's trending up. This bracket just updated, by the way. This is Lenardi's latest update. I don't know how you can have Miami trending up. They just lost to FSU, albeit it was a ridiculously lucky shot, but still, FSU is horrible this year. Texas A&M, FAU. Florida Atlantic's had a nice season. A&M had a rough game yesterday. Baylor at a 3 seed. They had a big win against Texas. And then you've got Providence, Memphis, Arizona as the 2 seed taking on Youngstown State. Looking at the Midwest, you have Houston taking on a 16 seed. They would face NC State or Rutgers. Rutgers has been falling hard recently. Indiana taking on Oral Roberts. A lot of people want to avoid Oral Roberts. They are now 27-4. And I think they finished 18-0 in their conference. Iowa State and Yale in a 4v13. Northwestern taking on either Oklahoma State or USC. Marquette all the way up to a 3 seed now with that elite offense taking on Toledo. That would be a crazy high-scoring game. Both of those teams, Toledo has a horrible defense, outside of the top 200, they've got a really good offense. Duke and Missouri, so Duke's sitting on the 7 line. They've been playing better recently. And then Texas still as a 2 seed, which is kind of interesting, in front of Baylor, even after Baylor beat them. Taking a look at the New York region, you've got Purdue still sitting on the 1 line, even after their loss yesterday. You have Kentucky and Boise State, 8v9, Creighton VCU, Virginia down to a 4 seed. That's not surprising, taking on Utah Valley. San Diego State remains a 6 seed. They've gotten a few close wins. West Virginia's in at an 11. Tennessee still at a 3. They crushed whoever they played yesterday. They won like 95-62 or something. Michigan State as a 7, taking on Pittsburgh. That'd be a nice matchup for Michigan. Yeah, that's a good draw for Michigan State, getting Kansas State in the second round. And then you have Kansas taking on a 16 seed. Arkansas and Illinois in an 8v9 game. Illinois is one of those Big Ten teams there's so many Big Ten teams bottlenecked in the same, with the same record in conference. It's crazy. St. Mary's had a tough loss yesterday to Gonzaga. They're still on the 5 line, taking on a Drake team that's been winning like crazy. UConn up to a 4. The metrics love UConn taking on Iona. TCU versus Mississippi State or Wisconsin. They've got Gonzaga and St. Mary's in the same West region, which is interesting. They would take on Colgate. I saw a stat where it said Colgate has made the tournament 4 straight years. That's impressive. It is. And then Maryland taking on Auburn with UCLA as the final 2 seed. You would think the reason UCLA is not on the 1 line yet is due to a weak Pac-12 conference. Now, looking at the overall Ken Palm, they love UCLA. UCLA is the number 2 overall team here. Houston is number 1 by almost 3 points. Bama has fallen back a little bit to number 3 because they've had some close games. Tennessee sitting at number 4, that dominant number 1 defense. UConn all the way up to 5. Purdue falls back a spot to number 6. They have 5 losses now. Kansas is sitting at number 7. St. Mary's at number 8, even after their loss to Gonzaga. Texas, and then how about Gonzaga? The best offense in college basketball sitting at number 10. I like St. Mary's and Gonzaga to go far in the tournament. Those 2 teams I'm really zeroing in on right now. Arizona at number 11. Marquette is another team I think is really, really good, especially offensively. Baylor at 13. Creighton at 14. Arkansas, San Diego State, surprisingly enough, at 16. Xavier. And that's surprising. Arkansas is all the way up to 15. They really like them with the 10 losses. Kansas State all the way down to 18, which is, considering they're almost a 2 seed on most brackets, that's pretty crazy. Maryland and then Indiana, 2 Big Ten teams there. Looking at the overall T rank, you've got Houston, Bama, UCLA, Tennessee. That's a pretty consensus top 4. Purdue sitting at number 5, St. Mary's, UConn, San Diego State all the way up to 8. With Zona and then Gonzaga, again, inside the top 10 in front of Kansas, Baylor, Texas, Arkansas, Creighton, and Marquette. And then looking at number 17, Texas A&M. They suffered that loss. That's probably going to move them down in terms of seeding. Xavier at 18, West Virginia, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State. That's 4 straight Big 12 teams. Auburn, Indiana, and then MSU. They had that heartbreaking loss yesterday, of course. And then this is just another metric system to look at. This does a good job of showing strength of schedule, and this can kind of help understand why a lot of people still have Alabama as the number 1 overall team in front of Houston, even though the metrics say Houston should be first. Houston has only faced, had 2 games versus teams within the top 25. Alabama's had 8, Tennessee has had 8, UCLA has had 5, so it's a significant difference there for Houston, and I know one of their best players got hurt yesterday. I don't know his current status, but it did look like a stinger. I don't want to speculate on it, but it just looked like he ran into someone on a screen or something. But these rankings overall, you still have UConn rated very highly. You have Gonzaga inside the top 7 in this. And kind of interesting, St. Mary's outside of the top 15, according to these team rankings, which is just another analytical site to look at. And it's just more data. I like looking at kind of the strength of schedule and stuff like that, how you're doing against the top 25. Texas has faced 10 games versus top 25 teams. Baylor's faced 11. So that is pretty crazy stuff right there. And then this is kind of interesting. And ACC fans are having a lot of issues right now because, their conference is so bad. A lot of these teams like Clemson, Miami, they've got really good records, but their seeding is just so low. And, I have never seen the ACC in recent memory be this weak. I mean, it's just remarkable how weak it is. You've got teams that are 5 or 6 games above 500 in conference, possibly missing the tournament. I know Clemson had a good win against NC State where they blew them out yesterday, but that honestly just bumps NC State down more. So that's one of kind of the trending things right now. The ACC is just so weak. Duke has kind of come on as of late, but you got to wonder how much of that is the conference is just watered down and they're winning home games and they're facing teams that are very beatable. I mean, where's Virginia going to end up at this point? It just seems like Virginia is a team with very limited upside in terms of the tournament, and I could see them losing in the second round very easily just based off of their play style, based off of a team getting hot, and especially if they're a 5 seed right now. That's not a good situation where you're possibly facing, what would it be, a 4 seed in the second round? So that is just the overall bracket as it stands right now for this Sunday update, this Bracketology update a few weeks before actual Selection Sunday happens. I'm going to do this again on Sunday, and then I'll continue my Bracketology weekly update. This is more like seeding and stuff like that, just a more in-depth look at the actual bracket. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.